I think we are ready. Jennifer, you're on for our invocation. Welcome, everyone. It's August 25 of 2025. The big business meeting of the Billings City Council. Please stand with me for our Pledge of Allegiance and our invocation by Councilmember Owen. Allegiance to America and to the republic which stands one nation, God, indivisible, liberty and justice.
Heavenly Father, as we gather here tonight in service to our community, let us begin with a moment of gratitude. We give thanks for the opportunity to live in a place where voices can be heard, where ideas can be shared, and where challenges are met with determination and care. We are thankful for the commitment of every person in this community, elected leaders, city staff, and engaged residents, all who come together with the shared purpose of building a stronger, more vibrant city of Billings. May we carry hope into tonight's work, hope for meaningful and respectful debate, for wise decisions, and for progress that uplifts everyone. May we remain mindful of the public trust that has been placed in us and approach our decisions with fairness, integrity, and humility. Lord, I ask a blessing tonight over our community, over those who serve the vulnerable, protect our neighborhoods, and make Billings an extraordinary place to live. Let us find harmony with one another, be grateful for our blessings, and guided by hope for our future. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Denise, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Shaw.
Councilmember Shaw is excused. She's still recovering from her back surgery, but I got a text that she's doing well and hopes to get the all clear to return to our next meeting.
Councilmember Gulick. Neese.
Present.
Owen.
Here.
Rogers.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Aspenleiter.
Excused.
Tidswell.
Is online.
I hope he can hear us. Boyette. Repsis. Mayor Cole.
Here. First item of business are minutes from August 11th. Are there any comments, changes, or motion relating to the minutes, draft minutes from August 11, 2025? Councilmember Neese?
I make a motion to approve the minutes for August 11, 2025.
Second, Councilmember Boyette. Any discussion? Seeing none, if in favor of the motion is for approval of the minutes of August 11th as drafted, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. If opposed, please say nay. Motion passes unanimously. I know we've got some council courtesies. I'll kick us off here this evening. First, just a reminder to all the members of our city council to speak directly into your microphone. It's not such a problem at these meetings, but at our work sessions in particular, where we're turning our heads and we've had concerns expressed by people watching on Community 7 that they can't hear us. So just a reminder on that. And then also, we do need applicants for our Community Development Board by September 1st, so please encourage people to apply if you've got that. And lastly, for me, we've got some special guests from some scouts from Troop 23, which meets at First English Church. So I'm going to ask our three or four scouts to come on up to the podium. And I believe we've got a assistant scoutmaster or somebody filling in. Feel free to come as well. And just tell us your name and where you go to school. But actually, you can look at us. See that microphone, right? Are both live? You can take your pick, whoever one. Just speak fairly clearly and loudly into each one, or to one of them.
My name is Rosemary Staley, and I go to Skyview and Billings Early College Center.
Very good.
My name is Megan Finnegan, and I go to Ben Steele Middle School.
What grade?
8th.
8th, okay.
I am Xander Jordan, and I go to Ben Steele Middle School, and I'm in 7th grade.
Very good. Thank you. Well, welcome, guys. And You want to tell us why your scouts are here, sir?
Yes, my name's Todd Jordan. The Scouts are here for their citizenship in the community merit badge.
Very good. Welcome. Come back anytime. Hope we don't put you to sleep. Okay. All right. Other proclamations this evening, Councilmember Kennedy.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would like us to thank Officer Cale Gullett, who last weekend at 10th and Avenue C was hit by a van going 50 miles an hour and totaled out the police car. In that, after the wreck, he got out to see if the other two men in the van were okay, and they ran. He went after them and apprehended them. He then went to the hospital, and then he got checked, came back, got another police car, and finished out his last 4 hours of his shift. This is an exemplary product that we have with the Billings Police Department. Officer Cal Gullett needs to be recognized by this council, and I wanted to bring it up this evening. So I'd like to say thank you, Officer Gullett.
Very good. Councilmember Kennedy, thank you for bringing that to our attention. Thank you very much. Other courtesies this evening. Are there any other council courtesies this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to our proclamations. We do have a proclamation this evening in recognition of Healthy Tribes, the Healthy Tribes Run on the Rims Challenge Day this weekend. Whereas the city of Billings is home to approximately 5,900 American Indian and Alaska Natives whose cultural heritage, health, and well-being are vital to the fabric of our community. And whereas the mission of the Indian Health Service is to raise the physical, mental, social, and spiritual health of American Indians and Alaska Natives, and to support tribal governments and urban Indian communities in the development of comprehensive healthcare systems that meet the needs of their people. And whereas the Healthy Tribes Run on the Rims Challenge encourages individuals and families to engage in positive health behaviors, increase physical activity, and embrace a holistic approach to wellness, helping to prevent the onset of chronic diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, and obesity, while also providing education on suicide prevention, mental health, substance use prevention, treatment, and recovery resources. And whereas we acknowledge the World Health Organization's definition of health promotion as, quote, the process of enabling people to increase control over and to improve their health, close quote, and we encourage our community to embrace this philosophy through increased knowledge, engagement, and action. Now, therefore, I, William Cole, Mayor of the City of Billings, Montana, hereby proclaim August 30, 2025 as Healthy Tribes Run on the Rims Challenge Day in the City of Billings, and encourage all residents to join in the celebration of health, unity, and wellness, and to support the efforts of the Indian Health Service, the Rocky Mountain Tribal Leaders Council, and all participating organizations in their mission to promote healthier lives for all. With that, council reports. Any council reports this evening? Councilmember Boyette?
Just real quick, Councilmember Tiswell is having trouble listening and speaking on his microphone. I just wanted you to be aware of that. He can't hear us and we can't talk.
Very good. Thank you for calling that to our attention. Kevin, is there anything that you know that we can do?
Councilmember Tidswell, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I hear you now.
And we can hear you.
Good deal.
Magic. Very good. Thank you very much.
Magic.
Any other, okay, no other council reports, administrator reports. Our city administrator is not with us, but City Administrator Kevin Iflin. Kevin.
Good evening, council. Tonight, just two things on the administrator's report. Remember that Monday is Labor Day, so the work session will be Tuesday night, September 2nd here, and there was no ex parte communication. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you. Then we'll move on to public comment on non-public hearing items. So some of our items tonight will have a public hearing, which means you'll have an opportunity to give public comment on those items later. but there's two items in particular where there is not a public hearing. First is our consent agenda, item number 1. And then lastly is item number 10, dealing with the appointment of tax increment finance boards. If you'd like to comment on either the consent agenda, item number 1, or those TIF boards, that now is the time to do that. Everything else, there'll be a public hearing later, but please come forward. Is there any public comment on items 1 or 10? Items 1 or 10, please come forward to the podium. We just ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes and tell us who you are. Any public comment at this point? No one's coming forward, so we will close the public comment period and move on to our consent agenda. Council, are there any items that require a separate discussion and vote from our consent agenda? Councilmember Rupsis.
Thank you, Mayor. I need to separate 1D2 for purposes of recusal. My client is in the payees list this week.
1D2, bills for the week of August 4th. Very good. Any other separations? Seeing none others, is there a motion relating to the consent agenda? Councilmember Gillick.
I move to approve the items on consent agenda as submitted with the exception of items moved for separation, that being item D2.
Very good. Second by Councilmember Boyette. Any discussion? I'm just going to make a comment on items A1, the Fire Station 2 boiler replacement. Maybe I'm the only one who, after 8 years, still can't keep my fire station straight. I know there's 8, and I know, my neighborhood, I know where the number 1's downtown, 8 is, the new one in the Heights. But my recommendation to staff would be fine to keep the numbers, but could we possibly put parentheses location? That's a personal request, but if I'm the only one who can't keep them straight, then maybe we don't have to worry about that. But I imagine the public also might benefit from that a little bit. Any other discussion on the motion before we proceed to a vote? Okay, the motion is for approval of all the items on the consent agenda with the exception of 1D2. If in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. If opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. So item 1D2 are the bills of the week of August 4th. Is there a motion? Councilmember Gillick.
I move that we approve the bills for the week of August 4th, 2025.
Very good. Is there a second? Councilmember Boyette. Any discussion? Seeing none, if in favor of the motion approval of item 1D2, please say aye.
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 If opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously with the exception of Councilmember Ripsis, who did not vote. That concludes item 1. Our consent agenda brings us to our regular agenda. Denise, would you please read item number 2? And for anybody who's interested, there are copies of our agenda back by the door as you come in. Go ahead, Denise, sorry.
Public hearing for land use contrary to zoning to expand the surface parking at Elysian School located at 6416 Elysian Road. No action is necessary.
Thank you very much. Our presentation tonight is by Karen Hussman from the Planning Department.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a land use contrary to zoning application for the Elysian School. They're installing a new parking area and I requested relief from the landscape buffering, which requires a 6-foot buffer at the end of each drive or parking aisle. The proposed location is north of their new-ish track and field. And the intent is to make it easier, obviously, in the wintertime to remove snow, and also it's cost prohibitive to install and maintain that landscaped areas. That concludes my presentation. if you have any questions.
Questions for Karen? Karen, if I remember the staff report, the plan, even if we don't have a say in this, our only role is to hold the public hearing. But that their plan is still to have a net amount of landscaping that will be greater than what the zoning requirements would have required in themselves. Is that correct?
Correct. In lieu of the terminal islands, there would be providing a consolidated area for landscaping for future planting at the south end of the proposed parking area.
Very good. Do we have a representative from Elysian School in case there are questions for that person?
I actually invited a representative from Sandbell, who's their agent. I didn't see anyone, but they might be someone I don't recognize.
Okay. Yeah. We do have a representative if needed. So, and if you've got any comments, feel free.
Good evening. I'm Luke Shelton, the superintendent at Elysian Schools. So I got the message today that this was going on, so I figured I would stop by if there are any questions from the council.
Very good. Thank you for being here. Are there any questions for our superintendent? Looks like it's your lucky, well, I got ahead of myself.
One question. How much is the saving on the project is by not doing the requirements? How much are you actually be able to cut off that project?
As far as a dollar amount, I don't have the exact figures for that piece. We were under, the big push was under time constraint to get the project done and in place before school started, which we started last week. And so by doing that and keeping it within a budget that we had left over from the build that you saw of the field, this field was, or this parking lot was originally in the original bid when we did the athletic field. We just did not have the funds at the time to finish that. Many projects didn't get finished as we intended. Our school board decided with the remaining funds, because of the safety hazard with that parking lot as it was, it fills with water. It does not drain when we get a rainstorm or winter. We lose about a third to half of the parking lot in there for almost a week as the water doesn't drain properly. And so number one was to get this parking lot to drain. That was the first part of that, and that was a little over $70,000 to get it to drain properly. And then we were hoping if we could get that done, we'd have enough time to then asphalt it and get it completely done. And we were able to move forward with that. And so that's why we're asking for those changes in order to get that done and within budget. I know it would have pushed us over. We had to stay within restraints as far as going out for bid and time-wise, and we were able to do that because of just the movement of the project and how we had to do it in the way we did.
So it was a little less expensive some and also faster to get done.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yep, you bet.
Very good. I don't see anything else.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll open it for public hearing. So for members of the public, this is not a decision that the city council makes. Our only rule by state law is to hold the public hearing so that the public can be heard on this request by Elysian School to be exempted from the landscape requirement at the end of each parking row on their new parking lot. If anybody would like to comment on this, please come to the podium. This is a public hearing, so you should feel free to comment. Is there any public comment on item number 2? Any public comment on item number 2? This is a public hearing. Before I close the public hearing, any other comment? No one's standing up, no one's coming forward, so we'll close the public hearing. Before we move on to our next item, council, I'll just remind you, you have the right to, by statute, comment or give other direction, but it's not anything that we're allowed to have a vote on. Any further comments on item number 2? I don't see any, so I'll just comment for myself, which I never like these things because it always seems like government ought to live by the same rules that we make for everybody else. But in this case, if the net landscaping elsewhere is just as much, maybe it's not that big of a sacrifice, but that's a personal comment. Okay, don't see anything else, so we'll call that a wrap on item number 2. Move ahead with item number 3. Denise, would you read item number 3, please?
Public hearing and resolution approving a street name change from Leatherneck Lane in Elysian subdivision to Community Place. Staff recommends approval.
Jennifer.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a really quick item as well. We received a request from Intermountain Health, who is one of the property owners in Elysian subdivision, to change the name of Leatherneck Lane to Community Place. Currently, the only property addressed off of Leatherneck Lane is Intermountain Health's laundry facility. So it affects neither of the other two property owners, but they were notified of this request. So we are required to hold a public hearing per city code, so we're here tonight to ask you to approve it after holding a public hearing.
Any questions for Jennifer? Before we open up for public hearing? Okay, thank you very much. For members of the public, this is a public hearing on item number 3, resolution to approve the street name change, also in the Elysian School neighborhood. If anybody would like to comment on item number 3, this is your opportunity. Is there any public comment on item number 3? Any public comment before we close the public comment period? Again, no one's coming forward, no one's standing up, so we'll close the public hearing. Councilmember Kennedy.
Mayor, having conducted a public hearing and considered written and spoken testimony, I move to approve the resolution for the street name change from Leatherneck Lane in Elysian subdivision to Community Place as recommended.
Is there a second? I'm sorry, Councilmember Boya has the second. Would either of you like to speak to your motion? No and no. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll proceed to a vote. The motion is for approval of item 3, consistent with the staff recommendation. If in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
If opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Denise, please read item number 4.
Public hearing reopened and resolution approving and adopting wastewater wholesale rates for FY 2026. Staff recommends approval.
Very good. We'll turn it back to Jennifer. Jennifer, in your presentation, I'll just remind the council, we did get, Councilor Absaliner was not able to be with us. He was involved in this process, sent us an email making 2 points. One, specifically asking that you comment on where we're going to be at in our sewer extension fund, having fewer dollars. And then second of all, the addressing the future exceedance, penalties, fines, fees, whatever you want to call it. So it's just if in your presentation, you could address those issues as well. On to Jennifer.
All right, Mayor and Council, I think this is part 3 of the public hearing that we began in May for water and wastewater rates. So since we were here last time, we've met with the refineries and Lockwood, the refineries a couple times. We did come to a consensus for FY26. It's not perfect. The methodology is not perfect, which is why we're asking you to only approve for FY26 so that we can collect the data we need and get the right language in our permits and agreements to move forward with FY27 rates. So we made a couple changes. One is to the capacity side of the equation. There's, of course, the capacity and the use side. Capacity, bottom line is the biggest change we made was instead of using those max day values, we used a 7-day rolling average. And then we just made a couple other little tweaks to the model. And then on the use side, we really only changed how we allocate our I&I into the retail allocation. So the revenue changes that this brings on for FY26 is quite a bit less than what we had previously projected. You can see that Lockwood is a very, very minor change, and the reason that they had a minor change compared to the refineries is that they don't have the kind of spikes in the strengths that the refineries have sent us. So theirs did not change too much. The chart that's to the right just shows what our original proposed revenues would have brought in, what our new revenues would be, and then the blue is what they would be if they were calculated as retail customers. So this here shows you the rates and the fees that we're asking you to approve in the attached rate resolution that was attached to your council memo. And then we need to figure out where we're going to get the money that we did not collect then from these wholesale customers. And that impact is $1.1 million. So we need to find $1.1 million in our FY26 budget in order to make this work. So what we have here is how we prioritize our capital projects in Public Works. We use what's called a MODA tool, which just stands for a multi-objective decision analysis. So we use various criteria, and then we rank each project against those criteria that are shown on the left of your screen. Once we do that, we rank each project into the tool, run it through our calculations, and come up with the priority. So the higher the MODA value, the higher the rank is. The projects that are in orange are what are in your FY26 budget. So you can see it's all the higher ranked projects except for the annual sewer line extensions. So if you recall previously, to get the retail rates to 0%, we already decreased $1.3 million out of the annual sewer line extensions between 25 and 26, or FY26 and 27. So we have just $700,000 remaining in 26 that we could cut, and we are recommending cutting those extensions. As of this date, we have $2 million in that fund for any extensions that come up during the year. And then we are recommending the other $400,000 come out of reserves because we do not have a project that we could recommend cutting at this point in FY26. We would require to make up those reserves later, so it will require rate increases in a future year to make up the reserves if we go that route this year. And then our next steps would be to start setting the FY27 wholesale rates. We actually have our first meeting to do that later this week. And what we're trying to do is base our rates off the permitted maximums, which we don't have all the values in our permits or agreements right now. So we need to work with the wholesale customers to do that. And then we'd have surcharges for any exceedances. Because remember, even though we are not charging that max value, we still have to treat to everything that they send to us. So we'd have, the capacity side based off of the maximums and then surcharges for exceedances. The refineries have agreed to this in theory, that it is the most legally defensible way to do it, but we just have to work through all the logistics of doing that. And we do have representatives from both PAR Montana and P66 here tonight, and I would like to invite them up to conclude this presentation.
Very good. Thank you. Hey, Jennifer, before we hear from PAR and Phillips 66, sounds like Councilmember Kennedy has a question. You want to have it now as opposed to after the?
Yes, I would like to go back to the previous slide that you had on the projects. Okay. Out of those 2026 CIP prioritization projects, this year you had 2025 CIP prioritization projects. How many of those did you get done and how many did you not this year?
For FY25?
Yes.
I don't believe that we had any wastewater projects not completed.
Pardon?
I don't believe we had any wastewater projects not completed. We had some that are, were bid and still in construction, but they're all in progress right now.
You did the full amount that you were planning on.
Correct.
So this year, you're saying for 2026, you can only do the ones in the yellow.
FY26, those are the budgeted CIP projects, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Very good, thank you. Yeah, representatives, Phillips 66 and PARP, please. Welcome back.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. My name is Vicki Marcus. I'm a partner with Crowley Fleck. I'm here today representing PAR Montana. PAR Montana supports the fiscal year 26 wastewater wholesale rates as proposed. PAR Montana supports the process, and we look forward to continuing that process with the city staff. PAR staff have met and communicated several times with city staff over the past several weeks. Actually, they've been communicating the whole time as soon as the issues arose. PAR greatly appreciates the time and effort by the city staff to listen to concerns, to discuss and define mutually agreeable path forward for the fiscal year 26 wastewater rates. PAR understands that the approach for fiscal year 27 is not final, but we look forward to continued dialogue with city staff regarding those rates. As you heard, they have a meeting scheduled for this Thursday between the staff for PAR Montana and P66 and the city. So again, we support the fiscal year 26 wastewater rates, and we greatly appreciate the city staff's time and efforts as well as the city council's. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'm Bill Mercer. I'm a partner at Holland and Hart here in Billings, and I'm here on behalf of Phillips 66 again this evening. And I do want to first thank you for your indulgence here. I know that we've been before you a couple of times in addition to all the meetings with the staff, and we certainly appreciate your willingness to hear us out throughout this process. We too are here in support of the resolution that's in your packet that focuses on what the wastewater rates would be for the 3 customers limited just to this fiscal year 2026. And we acknowledge that the conversations on fiscal year 2027 have begun, but we need to continue to work on those details. But we are committed to doing that. We think that this is a good resolution for what had been contested as part of this fiscal year 26 rate setting process. And we really do appreciate Ms. DeRay's efforts and the efforts of her colleagues in helping to reach this resolution. So we would urge the council to adopt the resolution as drafted, and we pledge to make our best efforts as we approach fiscal year 27. Thank you.
Good. Bill, before you sit down, let me just ask you if there's any questions either for Vicki or Bill. I don't see any. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, council, any other questions for Jennifer? Councilmember Neese?
Thank you, Mayor. Jennifer, can you go back to that slide that had the revenue requirements?
This one or the...
One more back.
This one?
Yeah, that one. So just, you kind of buzzed through that chart on the right, but did I hear you say that if they were charged retail rates, I'm assuming commercial retail rates, that's what they would be charged versus the wholesale rates?
So all retail rates, wastewater retail rates are for both residential and commercial. We don't have separate rates for wastewater. But yes, that is what they would be charged at their current flows if they were just a regular retail customer. You have to remember that they do treat theirs before they send it to us.
Okay, so they do pre-treat. That's right. They're doing pre-treating, so we're not getting a lot of the chemicals and junk. They're kind of pulling that out before we get it.
It's fairly diluted, yes.
Okay. When you say diluted, is it coming in any more hazardous than any other commercial business in town?
I'm not sure I can answer that specifically, but I can tell you that their nitrogen is higher than we would like it to be. And their BOD is probably lower than we would like it to be.
Some of those don't mean anything to me, but I'm sure they mean something to you. So I guess that my point is, here we have commercial businesses in town paying a much higher rate. And it sounds to me like maybe their pre-treatment isn't good enough, and we're having to still do a whole lot of work to treat that water before it goes back into the Yellowstone. And they're getting a huge break on their rate compared to what our current commercial customers are doing. And that's what I'm concerned about, is maybe we're not getting enough pre-treatment ahead of time, and maybe that's something we need to negotiate better to make sure the pre-treatment comes in, or they get penalized to where they're paying equal to what our commercial customers are paying.
So Councilmember Neese, I'd respond to that in a couple different ways. First, it's similar to Heights Water District, and Heights Water District only has to pay for the assets they use. So they don't use many of our reservoirs, many of our pump stations, in our distribution system because they have their own pipe system. So their rate is typically lower because they're not paying for all the assets. And it's the same way for the wholesale customers. They're not paying for basically assets that aren't at the plant. So they have their own system for that, and they connect right to us.
Okay, so this comparison then probably isn't really apples to apples. If
It is not apples to
okay,
apples.
all right, that helps to know that that actually isn't showing that our commercial customers are paying a whole lot more. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Hey, Jennifer, I got a question for you. I appreciate your comments about how a reduction in collections here will impact the CIP. Just to make it absolutely clear, the only matter that's before us tonight is the approval of the rate resolution, which does not address the CIP. You're just giving us a heads up, right? There's no CIP specific matter before us tonight.
That is correct. And we could, I guess, go to Budget and Finance Committee would probably be the right step to talk about the actual cuts that we make. But we figured that question would come up about how do we deal with this.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And I apologize. I think in buzzing through your numbers before you probably said it, but in one my ear and out the other. But Councilmember Aspenleiter's email, where will we be sitting with our sewer extension fund once we adopt this tonight, assuming we do?
So we collected $1 million per year for the last 2 years. So there's $2 million plus some interest earnings in that account, maybe $2.2 million.
So we'll still have that $2 million. Okay.
Correct.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions for Jennifer before we have a public hearing? Councilor Neese?
Mayor, I am concerned because of the presentation talks about taking the $700,000 out of that pipe extension, and I don't believe that's what should be done. I think that reserves, it should all be taken out of reserves, in my opinion. Jennifer, do you know how much reserves that the sewer has?
So Councilmember Neese, right now we have enough reserves that we could take the whole $1.1 million out of it. Over our 5-year financial plan, we have 0 excess reserves. So that means that somewhere in there, we have to make it up.
But don't we have to make it up anyway if we're going to rebuild that extension?
That is true, yes.
Yeah, so I think, Mayor, I'd rather see that $700,000 go into the pipe extension so we have it there in the fund so that we can use it when it comes available, and then allow the staff to have to rebuild the reserves when it comes time to rate making again. They're going to have to do it one way or the other, but at least we've got the money set aside in reserves. And that's my preference. And I know that you said that we're not voting on that, but I think it needs to be directed to staff that that's what we want to do.
Councilor Ripson?
Thank you, Mayor. Jennifer, can you clarify this? Because I might have misunderstood. We're not actually using $700,000 of that $2 million reserve. We're just not collecting more to add to that reserve this year.
Correct, Councilmember. We would not have the additional money going into the fund, but we still have the $2 million.
We were keeping the $2 million where it is, but our plan was to collect another $700,000, so we'd have 2.7 at the end of it. Now we're still just going to have 2.
Correct, yes.
Very good. Thank you for that clarification. Anything else for Jennifer? Okay, thanks, Jennifer. Councilmember Neese?
Yeah. So, Mayor, Jennifer, just to clarify, this is $1.1 million, that this is a change in the overall budget, correct? And that impacts your overall public works for the sewer budget. Is that correct?
Correct. We would need to decrease spending.
So it could have been come out of some capital projects, so it could have affected our capital project budget. But we chose to, your recommendation is to take it out of reserves and out of the future capital project of pipe extensions. Is that right?
So the recommendation is to take it out of the $700,000 of that's remaining in this year's pipe extension, and then take the other $400,000 out of reserves.
Yeah. So
yes.
So if you take out the remaining $700,000, nothing goes into the pipe extension. So that reduces the future capital expenditures that we can do for that extension of pipes.
Correct.
Okay. And so I think this whole change, I think this is one of the reasons I didn't want to see us make these changes until retail rates happen, because if we were doing this outside without the retail rates approved, we would have to determine. I think, Jennifer, you told me wholesale rates are calculated first, and then kind of what's left over has to be made up by retail rates. Is that pretty accurate?
Correct. Wholesale rates are calculated first, and then based off of the methodology for them, and then we use what is anticipated for those revenues to offset our needs, because it's a cash needs approach that we do for retail.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Councilor Gillard?
Thanks for your earlier explanation about the difference between it's not apples to apples between the refineries and other commercial and residential users. So I know we're trying to work out something that's fair, right? And there's certain legal things that are still being worked out. This much we know, that city residents and businesses are not interested in subsidizing refineries, so we need to have a solution that works. I'm glad to hear that we're talking about some sort of fines or some sort of structure so that, it seems to me that the best way that the refineries can reduce their costs is to reduce the peaks, the spikes. Is that correct?
Correct, Councilmember Gulick. In fact, using that methodology puts them more in control of their rates and should make them more consistent over time.
Great. And a follow up, the capacity of our wastewater treatment plant is based on the highest peak time, right? I mean, that's the kind of the most expensive construction in a sense, is that when you're having to build something that isn't being used most of the time, is just being used for a peak spike.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Let's open for public hearing. This is a public hearing on item number 4, the proposed wholesale wastewater rates for fiscal year 26. If you'd like to be heard on this, it is a public hearing. Please come forward. Again, we just ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes and tell us your name. Is there public comment on item number 4? If so, please come forward to the podium. Is there any public comment on item number 4? This is a public hearing. Any public comment? No one's coming forward. No one's standing up. So we'll close the public hearing and proceed back to council. Council, how do you want to proceed? Councilmember Kennedy indicated he wanted to make a motion. Go ahead, Councilmember Kennedy.
Mr. Mayor, having conducted a public hearing, considered written and spoken public testimony, I move to approve the resolution adopting fiscal year 2026 wastewater wholesale rates and fees as recommended.
And Councilmember Boyette indicates a second. So did either of you want to speak to your motion? No? Okay. Further discussion. Councilmember Neese.
Yeah, can we clarify to make sure that even though the presentation showed a recommendation of using $700,000 in wastewater and pipe extensions, that this vote does not approve that recommendation? Because I believe one of the things we have to understand is pipe extensions are paid 100% by retail customers. And if we were to take it out of reserves are going to be funded by multiple sources. And so it'd be better for have to refill your reserves than have to refill the pipe extensions that we've already cut because of wholesale rate cutting. So I would just want to make sure that we're approving the wastewater rates. We've taken $1.1 million, and in my view, it's really coming out of retail rate funding because they are the ones who usually fund the $700,000. And that if this is all coming out of the reserve, then I think that's going to be a mixture of funds between retail and wholesale rates that is going to help pay for, have to be recouped over the time over their reserves, however the staff does that through the rate system. So it's supposed to make sure that's clear that we are not approving the recommendation.
And Councilmember Neese, I guess what I'd just say is the motion is the motion, and it speaks for itself. So it's the written version in your packet, which says that the move-in is moving to approve a resolution adopting the fiscal year 2026 wastewater rates and fees as recommended by staff. And the version that's been recommended by the staff is the one in our packet, sort of a page and a half there. I don't see that says anything about that issue. So if it's not in there, I'd say I personally agree with you that we haven't spoken to that. There may be certain expectations, of course, coming out of this, but what we're doing tonight is approving the plain language of that resolution, period.
Thank you. I heard them maybe taking that to the budget committee. I think that would be fine to discuss that with them at the time before they make any changes on that.
Very good. Do you have a motion on
Mayor, if we
floor?
could just interject for just a second here. Gina's got a comment.
Go ahead, Gina, please.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to point out that that issue is actually addressed in the staff memo under the fiscal effects portion. So I don't know if Jennifer wants to elaborate on that, but it does say that staff recommends decreasing wastewater pipe extension fund by $700,000, covering the remaining $400,000 with reserve funds.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. It's mentioned in the staff report, so that's an interesting question. The motion is actually to approve a resolution recommended by staff. It's referencing the resolution as opposed to just anything that might be in the staff report. You wouldn't say that we're bound by what Jennifer said in her staff report, would you, Gina?
No, I wouldn't say that. I just wanted to clarify that that was part of staff recommendation for the future. So that's just, I don't know if Jennifer wanted to talk more about that, but I agree with you that you're not bound by that, but that was just part of
I think that's
Jennifer's
a good
recommendation.
It's good. Thank you for pointing that out. That is part of the staff report for whatever that's worth. Further discussion, you got a motion on the floor. Councilmember Ripsis?
Thank you, Mayor. So would you expect then we'll see a FY26 budget amendment? Jennifer, I guess. Yeah, I'm looking at you. Sorry, Gina.
So Mayor and Council, we would expect to go to the Budget and Finance Committee. We don't typically do negative budget amendments. We just don't have the cash to spend for it. So we would know that we didn't have that project anymore once we got the final recommendation from the Budget and Finance Committee.
Great, thanks.
Okay, very good. Further discussion now on the motion. Any further discussion on the motion? I'll just make the point about the importance of the sewer extension fund. I mean, the reason, for anybody who's listening out there and they don't know what we're talking about, in the past, we've always had this problem of who, when you've got a development and cost many millions of dollars to bring utilities out to that development, who's going to pay for that? It doesn't really make sense for the developer to have to pay something of that large number, even if they get paid back some of it later. And so the city's come up with the policy of, well, if we collect some reserves, we can front those costs and then collect as we extend those services. And that allows for an orderly extension of the community. But we only can front those costs if we have those reserves. So it serves a very important function. Devil's in the details about how many dollars we need exactly, but that's kind of what we're talking about here. Any further discussion on the motion before we proceed to a vote? Let's vote. Okay, so the motion is for approval. Item number 4, consistent with the staff recommendation in your agenda. If in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. If opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thanks very much. Denise, would you read item number 5?
Public hearing and resolution setting annual levies for FY 2026 on general fund, transit, library, public safety 1, 2, and 3, and general obligation debt. Staff recommends approval.
Very good.
It's not going away.
Our Finance Director, Andy, and his associate assistant, Kevin Ifland.
We're going triple computer today, so be a good one.
You on this one?
Yeah, I do. Just might need to reference stuff off.
Okay.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have a brief presentation. I've spent a fair amount of last week and today speaking with a few of you about the mill levy setting for FY26. We also went to Budget and Finance last week as well. A couple things before I get into what you're being asked for tonight. You've all heard many presentations from me about the legislative changes to property tax, the property tax system, and how it jived with our charter. But ultimately, there were changes to property tax values. They put in language stating they're superseding our charter, but required that we generate the same tax revenue in fiscal year 26 that was assessed in fiscal year 25. The other point I want to make, not so much for you council members up there, but any public watching, is go apply for your property tax rebate that is available to you now that will give you the homestead exemption in future years. If you don't do that now, you'll likely see significant tax increases on your primary residence. So there's a website up there for that. Okay, so the number of mills that you're being asked to approve and set this evening totals 244.39. This is about 35 mills more than the prior year. We saw a 15% reduction in our taxable value, and that's entirely a result of the legislative changes that occurred. In order to generate the exact same tax revenue that was assessed in fiscal year 25, the recommendation is that you levy 237.71 mills. Those are for the operating levies that you traditionally are familiar with from the charter. Additionally, there's another, 6.68 mills for the 2 GO debt bond issuances, totaling 244.39. This mill increase will still likely result in a tax reduction, property tax reduction for the typical home in Billings. Up here I have the median home, which increased $36,000 from $308,000 to $345,000. Even with the increased mills, they're expected to see a reduction of about $200 per year for the city of Billings portion. They would see a reduction as well from the county and school district. I just don't know to what extent. I did put together a couple of slides. I may wait for an amendment before going through those. Speaking with a few of you today, so happy to go through those as well when that time comes. Mayor, this is a public hearing and staff is recommending approval.
Very good. Thank you. Questions for Andy? Seeing none, we'll open up for public hearing and then come back. This is a public hearing on item number 5, the proposed setting of levies for fiscal year 2026. If you'd like to be heard, please come to the podium. Is there any public comment on item number 5? Any public comment on item number 5? This is a public hearing. Any public comment? No one's coming forward. No one's standing up. We'll go ahead and close the public comment period. Back to Andy. Councilmember Owen?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to offer an amendment. The amendment that I would propose would modify sections 1 and 2 of the resolution to move the numbers to the charter authorized amount, and in section 2, establish a new bullet F, adding in the required numbers of mills under HB 231. If there's a second, I'll explain further.
Second.
Councilmember Rogers indicated a second. Would you explain further, Councilmember Owen, and take those one and one?
Point of order, Mayor. Do we even have a motion to amend yet?
That's the motion I just made. Sorry, I meant to move that amendment.
We did not have.
On the underlying resolution.
We don't have an underlying motion.
So I don't know that's necessary. I think it would be really a motion to amend the draft, but it might be cleaner.
Whatever you like, Mayor. I'm happy to withdraw. And
I guess my suggestion would be, let's get. I'm going to give it to you so you can control it. You can make whatever motions, and then we'll come back to you. Make sure you have an opportunity to make your motion to amend. Okay. So back to Councilmember Owen. The original motion then was withdrawn by Councilmember Owen, Councilmember Rogers, I believe. Is that what the plan is? Okay, withdrawn. Councilmember Owen.
Okay, would you like me to move adoption of the underlying resolution?
Yeah, let's do that just because we're kind of used to that procedure.
Okay, so I would move the adoption of the resolution as presented by staff.
And Councilmember Rogers, also a second. Okay, and that's on the floor. Possible amendments, Councilmember Rowan.
Thank you, Mayor. So I would like to make an amendment to the resolution as presented by staff. This amendment would modify sections 1 and 2 to take the levies as presented back to their charter authorized amount, and then establish a new section 2F, which would authorize the state directed under HB 231 number of mill levies equal to generate the required revenue from fiscal year 25.
And can you explain the substantive difference?
Need a second on that.
As soon as I have a second, I will.
Yeah, Councilmember Rogers indicates the second.
Thank you, Mayor. So specifically, I think, and we've had some conversations about this in the Budget Committee. We had them during the budget debate. We are in this situation of figuring out how to comply with the language of 231, which I think is ambiguous in many cases and ambiguous in this particular case. So it is clear that the legislature expects us to authorize mill levies to match FY25 levels. How they expect us to do that is less clear. And it is my recommendation tonight, and I think consistent with some conversations that have been had, that we make it clear that the voter authorized mill levies are what they are, and we will also comply with HB 231. And this motion tonight, this amendment tonight would make that clear. So specifically, Section 1 would be amended to strike 86.71 and insert 74. Section 2A would strike 5.86 and insert 5. Section 2B would strike 11.71 and insert 10. 2C would strike 23.41 and insert 20. D would strike 70.22 and enter 60. And E would strike 39.80 and insert 34. And a new F would be added at 34.71. That number reflects what is remaining if we go to our full charter authorized levels, which is what this amendment would propose to do. I think it's important that we retain flexibility to implement HB 231 as we continue to get guidance from the state as to how the property tax bills overall will be implemented. I think it is consistent with legislative intent such that that can be discerned from this bill. And I think that this makes it clear to the voters that we are doing our level best to interpret this narrowly, to preserve the charter where possible, and also comply with state law. I do think we have talked about how we describe this so that we clearly describe a city activity that will be funded. And so the language that I think is up on the screen in front of you reflects that this will be distributed according to the adopted budget into the 4 accounts above: general fund, public safety, library, and transit. So this, I'm happy to answer questions, but I think that generally goes over the mechanics of this.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I'll start with the obvious question. That lump sum 34.71 would not include any sort of allocation. So how do we then decide where those dollars go? Presumably they could all go to the library. So the library might like that.
I think they could not, right? Because we have an adopted budget. And so just like the general fund allocates money, so too would this. These dollars would be allocated according to the adopted budget. And if we need to make that language clear in here, we certainly can. We don't for the general fund, but this would be a levy designed to bring in revenue, and then the budget directs those expenditures.
But we could amend the budget, so theoretically we could give it all to the library or whatever.
Theoretically, we could do that under the general fund.
We could go anywhere we want that we could send money from the general fund.
And I think you make an excellent point, Mayor, is going forward in the future, we might in fact need that flexibility as the property tax bills changes. If it's my understanding that the current interpretation of 231 means that this year we functionally set the caps going forward. And so if we allocate these out by categories, we will in fact be tied into that year after year, or at least potentially. That's a reasonable interpretation of the bill. And I think what I'm endeavoring to do here is maintain maximum flexibility so that so that the city can impose the taxes that are required under law, and then we can allocate them in the budget and be flexible to do that over the years as the underlying property tax assessments may change.
Okay, you've got an amendment before you. It's been made and seconded. Discussion is now on the proposed amendment. Councilmember Ripsis and Councilmember Neese had his hand up.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to stay on that topic because I have no idea how this would play out next year. The voters have passed specific levies for library, public safety, and transit. If we lump everything into 34.71, how is Andy or anybody supposed to recognize next year how this is going to be constructed? If we don't track that this year, it's supposed to be 5.86 for the library, we should not have that flexibility next year to say it will be less. We should, the voters passed that. The legislature did their thing. We should know that next year will be 5.86. I think actually the legislature locks us into next year the same number of mills. But beyond that in future years, if we're not tracking to where we are today, you're just opening up a big slush fund for allocating those mills to wherever we choose. And I think I heard you say we want that flexibility. We want to set that slush fund up. So I'm not really sure how this sets up future councils for transparent, predictable budgeting according to the voters' wishes when they pass these previous levies.
So, Mayor, if I can respond?
Go ahead.
I vigorously disagree with this being called a slush fund in the same way the general fund is not a slush fund. We set a budget for that and dollars are allocated accordingly. And so it is, let's go back a year before 231 existed. We had a general fund and we had a transit levy and a library levy, and we can always levy less than that. So it's not true that because the voters authorized 5, we always levy 5. We levy up to 5. And now what we will do is levy up to 5, up to 10, up to 20, up to 60, up to 34, and up to 34.71. And then we will allocate it in the budget in exactly the same way we do in the general fund. We have interfund transfers now between the general fund and the public safety fund based on how council decides to fund the departments in those two that are served by those two funds. So this is no different. This is exactly as transparent as every annual budget process, where we put the budget before the public hears it, they come and comment, we offer amendments. It is the exact same process. We are just not, exactly to your point, locking in the levies for the future going forward.
Sure, with this discussion,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Except it does become a slush fund because, just as you said, we can levy less for the library. We can't necessarily levy more for transit just because we want to. So if we were to levy less for the library, but have say we're just going to do the same number of mills that we did last year, we could essentially levy more for transit outside of the voters' intent here. So that flexibility, and we are losing that transparency and accountability for what we voted for, regardless of what the legislature did.
Yeah.
we are losing the voters' intent by setting this up, and the very flexibility that this purports to offer, I think, sets us up for some real confusion in future years. So I don't think this is a good move. I much prefer, I don't like what the legislature did. So I'm going to vote against this for those reasons. I think we owe it to the voters to be more transparent than what this does.
Okay, further discussion, Councilmember Kennedy, I recognize Councilmember Neese before I apologize. Councilmember Neese, Councilmember Kennedy.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I do like the idea of separating these out. I think Councilmember Owen presented a lot of good reasons to do that. I think one of the things but Tom did bring up some good points about, we want to make sure that's not a slush fund. So I think what we present on the tax rolls is going to be limited, and I think something like this is as presented is going to be fine. But I think in our resolution, we maybe want to detail that out. So maybe we have F and then 0.1, 2, 3, 4, you list them again with the different amounts. The general fund at 12.71, the library 0.86, the transit 3. Just whatever those amounts are specifically. That way, it's in black and white what we're going to spend each one for within the resolution. Now, we can't bound future council members. So to Tom's point, future council members could change those mill levies amount, but at least we as a council here are saying, we're adhering to what the state statute said, and we're separating it out, and this is the amounts that we're going to have per one. Now, what the public sees is they're going to see a 34.7, but they can look at the resolution and see how our resolution is breaking it down. So I would suggest that would be a really helpful way to make it transparent and accountability to future councils to what to do and how to divvy up the money.
And Councilor Bernice, just to make sure I understand, could you state again in a sentence or two, you would recommend potentially changing this new F to specify the big number, but then a
0.1, so in other words, F would be like 37.71 mills made up of 0.1 general mills, 12 to be going to 12.71, library 0.86, whatever, public safety 1.
You would specify the proportionate share of the individual accounts
in the resolution.
Right. But would that be binding on putting the allocation in a different place? Is what you're saying, but still having that allocation?
Mayor.
I think Councilmember Owen may understand.
I understand perfectly, and we've been down this road at length, Andy and I have been. What we put in here is what the county will print, and they're not going to print that much information. They're like, what do we decide today? 34 characters potentially in the description, which is why we've abbreviated everything anyhow. And so I think if you, Councilmember Bernice, wanted to have that sort of specificity, we might have to put it in a different paragraph instead of this one that specifically would be what the county is sent to print on the bills.
Okay, so this paragraph is what the county is going to print. So
That's my understanding.
Yeah, so I would recommend you have a second paragraph, and if you have to explain the 37.7 mils is to be divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And I would also just remind us all to keep revenues and expenditures separately. The budget is what dictates how money is spent. This is just simply how it is assessed and whether or not it's assessed with strings attached. But to your point specifically, I don't think we can add it here in 2. Perhaps we could find somewhere else to add it.
Okay, we can come back to that if we need to. But Councilor Kennedy?
I would say, and I've been in most of the budget meetings, if we've talked about this and everything, we did say it's more straightforward to let the voter know exactly, especially when they get their tax bill, that the 34.71 was appropriated through House Bill 231. And it's stated, it's clear, and it works. I don't believe it's a slush fund. I do know one thing. According to this charter, and I've been told over and over again, that the city administrator can move money from one to another. We are hopefully going to, the budget committee, do quarterly and keep track of what is being moved around. But this 34.71 can be moved, even if you laid it all out, it can still be moved around by the city administrator. So that's a part of the charter and just a reality. So I don't see a problem with it being laid out like this because it's very clear for the taxpayer. Thank you.
Councilor Boyette?
Thank you, Mayor. Andy, are you okay with this graph up here? Can you live with this?
Mayor and council, I can live with it. I did put together, and I went online and looked at what the Billings tax bill looks like, and I put together kind of what is before you on the resolution that I had put together, what that tax bill would look like. This is for the median home. This would be similar to what you've seen on your own tax bill, as opposed to if the amendment were to stand, this is what that tax bill would look like for the Billings portion. Still the same total information, but the dollars reduced proportionately. My reason for recommending the one that we did is I feel it's more clear and consistent with the budget that was adopted, because it shows exactly where the dollars are being allocated this year. But yeah, I'm not gonna die on this hill. So
So you can live with this?
We can live with this, yes. if I may, Mayor, further.
Andy, please.
The comment you guys were making earlier about what appears on the tax bill. This is in regard to Councilmember Neese's comments about subtotaling Part 2F. The county, historically, what we've done is just sent them, after you guys approve the resolution, here's the number of mills for each specific item. I did communicate with the county treasurer last week to determine, well, what space is available on the tax bill. What would be available to us if we wanted to expand any portion here. And we have very limited options. That's why you have what you have up there. He indicated that it may not be compliant. There's a section of statute that says what has to be on the tax bill, and he didn't feel like the language that I had provided earlier was clearly indicating the specific city purpose. We have changed the language to clarify it's going to general fund, public safety, library, and transit. So this is language, I'll say, better than what I had proposed to him earlier last week. But I guess to my original point, we didn't historically send them the resolution. I think this year, after I've had that communication with him, I'll have to send him the resolution, however it's approved tonight, and said, this is what council voted, this is what they want. So if we do add language in there, I think if you were to add a subtotal, getting it out of section 2 would be ideal. Because I can point to sections 1, 2, and 3. Those set the mill levies. Section 4, I think it is really more narrative about why we're levying the additional 30 mills.
Andy, does this have to be approved tonight?
Yes, it does. The state law says you have to approve this by basically the first Thursday of the first full week of September, and you don't have a regular meeting next week. So that's what's driving this, although I would speculate if you approved this at the first meeting in September, the county would still put it on tax bills, but we may have unnecessary pushback from the county.
Okay. Further discussion. And again, it's the amendment that is before you for discussion. Councilmember Gillick.
I don't know that I have anything really constructive to add in the sense that, so I'm just going to put that out front. Like there is no good solution because of the state situation. Because on the one hand, it is really nice to have the original things that are in our charter in terms of the levied amounts. It's really confusing if you see something different from that. I don't disagree at all. I get that. Having this additional line item added, though, then it makes it look as though it's the states requiring the city to levy some additional that we didn't before, and that's not quite accurate either, because again, it's the same amount total. So it's really confusing for others. I think our staff are going to not have any problem sort of tracking going into the future. It's really the public that if they're trying to if they're looking at our charter and then looking at our budget, that's where that gets really confusing. I don't know there is a good answer, and I don't have anything to offer in that regard, just other than to say it is really challenging to know what to do here. I do want to also say, though, having on a slightly different matter, addressing something that Councilmember Kennedy said, I don't think there's ever been any evidence that our city administrator has been moving money from different departments to others, or I've never seen any evidence or even that that's done, or even that he has the power to do that. I have a totally different understanding of that. So just wanted to make sure that the public, there's not agreement on the council on that point. So there we have it.
So I have another question for Councilor Rowan, I guess. I generally understand the concept of the new section F and the changes in 2A through E, but do we have a written document? We're talking about approving very specific language for a resolution. Do we have that specific language?
I do, yes.
Okay.
I sent it to Denise. I can email it around or I can just read it. It really is just the changing of the numbers.
Well, on A through E,
Uh-huh.
but then there's the new F.
F
right?
would read how Andy has it here. So the language that I sent to Denise and would recommend is the amendment would be F 34.71 HB 231 compliance dash GFPS LIB TRA. And then the same parenthetical citing to authority that is in every line above.
Okay, so that is the specific language, what we see from Andy plus the parentheses.
That's
that you
correct.
just mentioned. Okay, very good. Further discussion on the proposed amendment. Councilmember Kennedy, Councilmember Ripsis?
Mayor, I have a question. Kevin? Last year, when we had the overage in the fire budget for overtime, and that was moved, and then it came up back to us after the year ended, who moved that money over?
So Councilmember Kennedy, I think maybe what the appropriate thing would say was that it can't be moved between levies. We can't move money from public safety levy to the library, things of that nature, if that's correct, Andy.
And who moved that over?
From the fire department entered fire department budget, that was the city administrator, from one line item of the fire department budget to another line item in the fire department budget.
Okay, Councilor Ripsis?
Thank you, Mayor. So Andy, going forward, 86.71 for the general fund will always be our max. Is that how it's going to work? And you're just going to have a table in the background that says it's 74 plus 12.71.
Yeah, the way I've kind of envisioned going forward would be the 34.71 would function similar to how entitlement share has, which is we've built a distribution, and part of the recommended budget that comes to you each year would recommend how that's distributed. My estimation at this point is that the proportionate distribution would be what's up there. You know, the equivalent of 86.71 would go to the general fund and so on. But as I understand the intent is that 34.71 could be
We could all go
adjusted.
to public safety one year, all go to the library the next year. And
That's my understanding, yes.
okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to comment. I'm going to oppose this. I understand the concept. I think the existing resolution already makes it very clear why we're doing this. Namely, we have to, by legislative dictate. And I don't think the average person is really going to be confused. They're not cruising through our resolutions. If they are, they already get it. Or they can read it, they'll get it from that, or they can ask us and we'll explain it to them. So I don't think there's a real issue of voter confusion on this. But what there is, in my opinion, is a definite decision by the voters to make a relative allocation of their tax dollars amongst these categories, namely library, transit, public safety. And if we upset that relative allocation, the old numbers that would be locked in the resolution are not just some nicety. They represent now a very real guaranteed reduction if those are applied to our library, to our transit operating, and to our public safety system, unless we abide by the budget. The budget is a very important document, but it's something we can change any time. And so I don't think we want to take that risk. I think we've made the decision about allocation. And I think it would divide the council further when we try to go and potentially fiddle with that 34.7. So I like what we have done before. And then overall, I object to the process. This is obviously a very important issue. It's something that I'm just learning about. Everybody else seems to have known about it except for me. I mean, I've heard about the issue, of course, but I didn't. I think there's been discussion about the specifics here that I'm just hearing about for the first time. So as a matter of a process, I don't like that. I'm going to vote no. So I think that will respect the relative allocation made by the voters. So, but that's my views on the proposed amendment. We do need to move to a vote on the amendment. Councilmember Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. Andy, let's say we keep the transit at 11.71, but then transit moves away if we give the airport authority permission to take it. Or is it 10 or 11.7 that goes away? Or can you change that? Just a question.
Councilmember Boyette, I don't know that I'm equipped to answer that hypothetical at this point. Prior to the legislative changes, my assumption was that if transit were to go as part of an authority, you would lose the ability to tax those 10 mills. But a lot has changed because of this bill. So I don't know that I can give you an answer on that.
And Andy, isn't there a theoretical possibility? I mean, first of all, we don't know if we're going to do that or when that would
Right.
take effect. If it happens a year from now, we would have another set of levies. But we could just cut a deal with this authority. You know, we make whatever transfer to them, and we provide some subsidy because we're going to get the dollars or not, or
I'm going to call for the question.
anything like that. So, well, it was raised as relevant to this. So, do you want to comment on the possibility of a? No, it's beyond your scope. I'm basically making the point. So, okay. Further discussion though on the proposed amendment, which we should move to a vote on soon. You'll call the question.
call for the
Okay,
question.
well, now we have to vote on whether to vote. So that'll delay us a little bit from our vote, but if in favor of moving ahead, we need a 3/4 or 2/3 voting tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plus 9, 2/3 will be 6. So we need to have 6. If in favor of moving ahead to the vote, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. If opposed, nay. Okay, motion passes unanimously. We'll move to a vote on the proposed amendment only. So is the scope of the amendment, proposed amendment clear? Okay, don't need to restate that. So if in favor of the proposed amendment, say aye.
Aye.
And actually, let's do a hand vote. Voting in favor are council members Neese, Owen, Rogers, Kennedy, Boyette, and Tidswell. If voting against, raise your hand. Voting in opposition, Gulick, Rupsis, and Cole. So the proposed amendment passes. So now we have before you the amended underlying motion. Further discussion now on the amended underlying motion. Councilmember Neese?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to attempt to make a motion to this new amended motion to add what I had described before, how the 34.71 mils is divided up in paragraph 4, where it discusses at the last paragraph the increase of the 30. It says 35.72, but I think that's incorrect. Mills levied to the fiscal year is made up of, and then describe in there how that's going to be divided amongst the general fund, library, transit, public safety 1, 2, and 3. It's just listed out there. That way it's not in that. I think, Andy, if you said something like that would be a better place to put it, it's not listed in that. So if there's a second to the motion, I'll keep talking. Okay.
Okay, is the motion clear? And is there a second? Councilmember?
He seconded.
Councilmember Gillick seconded it? Okay.
I just want to make sure, what does that mean in English when it's all said and done? Are we right back to where we just started from?
I think what it's going to do is going to tell the public and hold the council accountable to how we're going to divvy up the 37.7 mils or whatever, 34.71. Yeah. So it's just this year. And so it's going to divide it up. It's going to hold us accountable. And that does, again, resolutions are hardly worth the paper they're written on, because their council can change those the next meeting if they want to. But it does at least hold us accountable that we say, we're going to honor the fact that the voters voted so much for library, so much for transit, and try to meet that. Now, I can tell you, transit and library, they don't need the funds. Library has a huge surplus. They could go zero this year and they would be fine. Transit, same thing. They're building parks or they want to build parks with some of their reserve funds. And so I can tell you that those are overfunded, in my opinion, are overfunded departments anyway. And so we can trim some of that money and be better used for public safety. But that said, I think to hold us accountable to what we're trying to do is what has been talked about. The intent is to convert this, then at least have within this first year, show what the additional amount is that we are going to allocate towards the budget, because we've already, or will be adopting the budget soon. And then we as a council member hold it accountable to that. If we change that, yeah, we can change it, but it's going to be on the record that we change it.
Okay, the motion is made and seconded on second amendment. Further discussion on that proposed amendment. Councilmember Gulick?
Yeah, I seconded it just so that given the first vote we had, I thought it was a good way to be able to just keep us on track for, so yeah, I will support the motion.
Okay, further discussion. Councilmember Rowan?
Mayor, could I suggest a friendly amendment that in both places in 4 where 35.72 exists, we would strike and insert 34.71? So that would be in the second and fourth paragraphs, just for the sake of accuracy.
Yes.
State that again. The exact numbers would be?
It would be 34.71 in both places, Mayor, where it says 35.72. So in paragraph 2 of section 4 and paragraph 4 of section 4. Do you see those?
I do.
Okay.
Andrew, no
Yeah,
reason.
I'd just like to comment on that. So the 35.72 is the increase over the prior year number of mills. But if you recall, last year you did not levy to the cap. So that's the difference between 34.71 and 35.72. So I can clarify that, but yes.
But we do need to correct it, right?
Well, yeah,
Make
if
it
you're going
comport with F?
to increase the ones in 1 and 2 to add the 1.01, the difference then is 34.71. So that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Just wanted to explain why they're not the exact same number. So the 35.72 represents the increase over the prior year, but you only levied 201.99 last year, which was 1.01 less than the charter cap. So you're adding that 1.01 into sections 1 and 2 above, and the remainder, 34.71, is what we're talking about describing in paragraph 4. Does that clarify it?
So are you saying, Andy, that the earlier assumed a full levy of maximum numbers and the smaller, roughly 1 mil less, is just a net increase over what we increased or assessed last year, but not the maximum?
I think that is correct, yes.
So we're carrying through in this year a decision not to levy the maximum like we did last year.
Yeah, my understanding from the bill is we were forever lost that 1.01 mil because we have to levy the same amount we assessed last year. And since that was not levied, that option is not available.
So we lost that chance potentially forever.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So that is, we called it a friendly amendment. Is there any objection from the movements to make that part of your proposal, Councilmember Bernice and Councilmember
No,
Gulick?
if that's what Andy indicates that needs to be changed, I'm agreeable to that.
Okay. Councilmember Gulick? Let's, Councilmember Owen, I appreciate your desire to move us along calling it a friendly amendment. Technically, there's no such thing, and that once the amendment has been, or the motion has been made, it's the council's.
Sure.
So let's come back to that.
It's fine. This is not a hill to die on. I'm just was trying to get accuracy in the numbers. So is the accurate number in 4 supposed to be 35 or 34? Based on the amendment just adopted.
Yes, as amended, it should be 34.71 additional mills. And to be clear, that is in addition to the mills in 1 and 2 as amended. Yeah.
Okay, but we still have to decide how we're going to handle that element. Councilmember Gulick, do you consent to that being part of it? If not, we'll just deal with it separately. That's fine. We'll come. Okay, so we've got the motion, Councilmember Nice's. We'll come back to that issue because it's perfectly legitimate. But right now, we only have Councilmember Nice's original proposed amendment in front of us. Any other discussion on that before we proceed to a vote on it? And is the motion clear that we'll be voting on? Anybody need it restated? If so, I'm going to ask Councilmember Nice to restate it, but I'm not seeing anybody asking for that. So, we're going to proceed to vote on Councilmember Nice's amendment. If in favor of Councilmember Nice's amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
If opposed, nay. Nay. Voting in opposition, Councilmembers Kennedy and Councilmember Rupsis. All other council members voting in favor, so the motion passes 7-2. So again, now we have the underlying motion's been amended twice. Let's come back to the 75.72 versus 34.71 issue. Is that something that somebody wants to make a motion on? Councilmember Owen, for example.
Sure, Mayor, I'm happy to make a motion that in section 4, in the two places where 35.72 mils is stated, that would be stricken, and we would insert 34.71 to conform with the two amendments now adopted.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Councilmember Boyette. Okay, any further discussion by either of the movement or the second? Any further discussion? Okay, now any other first discussion on the motion? Councilmember Gulick, looks like you're ready to pounce.
No, not already counts. That was actually discussion still. Sorry, I'm maybe a little slow, but just, Andy, this is, the 34.71 is an increase over our caps. But again, last year we did not levy our whole to our caps in all categories. I guess it doesn't say that it's an increase of 35.472 mils, 35.72 mils compared to last year. That's, I guess, but that is the intent, is it's an increase of that over the previous year.
Yes, that is correct. The first paragraph in section 4, I attempted to explain that difference, or started to, where I indicated the charter cap was 203, but in fiscal year 25, the city only levied 201.99, and then I think the following paragraph then provides for the difference of 35.72 mils. So yes, 35.72 mils is the increase over the prior year, but not over the charter cap. The difference being what was not levied last year. That makes sense.
I believe so. So if we were to say 34.71, we want to say over the charter amounts.
Yeah. Yep.
Mayor, to be clear, I'm only trying to make the resolution accurate. It is not important to me what this number is, other than it's the correct number. So if it doesn't need to conform with the amendments on page 1, I will withdraw the amendment. But if it's necessary for accuracy, then let's just make the technical amendment.
And Andy, you want to comment? I mean, my understanding is it is necessary if we have to, based on the state statute that says we just have to levy in order to get to the penny that we assessed last year. That number is 34.71, not the 35.72. Is that correct?
I believe that paragraphs 1 and 2, or sections 1 and 2 of the resolution as amended, already handle the total number of mills that need to be levied to generate the same amount of revenue as the prior year. What I understand is attempting to occur is in section 4, further explanation of the new line 2F, where that will be allocated, and that's what
that amendment was already passed.
Right.
Yeah, but this is.
I'm sorry, I didn't intend to confuse those as one amendment. Yes, second amendment is to further define where those 34.71 mils are to be allocated for this fiscal year.
Yes.
Okay,
That's
are we ready to
correct.
vote?
Mhm.
Okay, so is this proposed third amendment clear or clear enough? Okay, if in favor of the proposed amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. If opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Voting in opposition were council members Kennedy, and there was another voice down here, Councilmember Ripsis. I believe all other council members voting in favor. Therefore, the motion again passes 7 to 2. Further amendments before we proceed to vote on the ultimate question. Are there any other amendments or questions or other discussion on the underlying motion? Councilmember Neese?
I've made a lot of amendments to this and support of the amendments, but I fundamentally disagree with the state's done, but I think they put us in a box and by saying thou shall. And so I'm going to follow the state law and vote with this, but I believe that the state overstepped their bounds in this, and I think the city may face a legal challenge, but I think we as a council have done the best we can to navigate this and are doing the best we can, but I'll support this at this time. So, thank you.
Very good. Any further discussion? Councilmember Ripsis?
I would just continue to vote against this, as I said I was going to, and just to be consistent with that. And I also wish that we could have had some discussion with this in the budget committee meeting. It could have been brought up that, and we could have had this stuff ironed out and actually had language to actually look at before tonight. It's disappointing that it wasn't, which is why I voted against all the other things. But I will continue to vote against the budget as I described before.
Very good. Thank you. I will vote for it because it's necessary. I also second Councilmember Ripsis. I was at that budget committee meeting. These things could have been brought up, or at least even in emails over the weekend. They're complicated. It's important to have these things in writing. So I do object to the process, but we're making sausage, and we all know about that. So, okay. Any other discussion before we proceed to a vote? Okay. If in favor of now the amended motion with the 3 amendments incorporated, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. If opposed, say nay. Voting in opposition, council members Ripsis and Kennedy. All other council members voting in favor. Motion passes 7 to 2. Thank you, Andy, for your work on that, and council budget committee as well. That concludes item number 5. Denise, would you read item number 6?
Public hearing and resolution setting annual road maintenance district number 6 assessments for FY 2026. Staff recommends approval.
Andy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a it's 2-slide presentation. This is an assessment for an emergency access road into Briarwood. There are 51 lots at $55 per year per lot, totaling $2,800. This is for maintenance on that road, highlighted in red on the slide in front of you. This assessment remains unchanged from the prior fiscal year, and this is a public hearing, and we are recommending approval of this assessment.
Okay. Questions for Andy before we open up for public hearing? I don't see any questions. So this is a public hearing. Item number 6, the Briarwood Emergency Road Access Assessment. If anybody would like to comment, please come to the podium. This is a public hearing. Is there any public comment on item number 6? Item number 6, last call. Anybody? No one's standing up. No one's coming forward. So we'll close the public comment period on number 6. Council, motion or comments? Councilmember Rogers?
Having conducted a public hearing, considered written and spoken public testimony, I move to approve a resolution setting annual road maintenance district number 6 assessments for fiscal year 2026 as recommended by staff.
Second, Councilmember Boyette. Would either of you like to speak to your motion? Seeing none, further discussion. Councilmember Kennedy?
Andy, is this a one-time shot?
This is not a one-time shot. This assessment district has been in place, I think, since 2015 or 17. And I think it's been $55 per lot per year since then.
Okay, so this has been ongoing.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll proceed to a vote. Motion is for approval of item number 6, consistent with what you've got in your packet. If in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
If opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 7, Denise, would you read item number 7, please?
Public hearing and resolution setting annual park maintenance districts, PMDs, assessments for FY 2026. Staff recommends approval.
Andy?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Item number 7, the park maintenance districts. There we go. Just to overview, this is really reiterating what's in your staff memo, but total FY26 revenue is almost 1.7 million. This is $15,000 more than what was in the proposed budget, and I'll touch on that in a second. There are almost 6,500 properties in Billings that are within a park maintenance district. The average charge at $250 a year, the median at $175. This is a 15.5% overall increase from the prior year. A significant portion of that is within Ironwood and Rehberg Ranch. The city is establishing funds there and beginning projects in those 2 subdivisions. And my understanding is at the request of the HOAs in those subdivisions to redo the entry sign at Ironwood, and that's the $15,000 more. I believe it was originally at $35,000 this year, and we're recommending it be at $50,000 because it's about $100,000 to redo that sign, so it'd be a 2-year deal. And then the big project at Rehberg Ranch is to replace the lighting along the trail, which is part of the PMD. There are other increases. The staff memo has this chart in there as well, but the 2 major ones, as I indicated, were Ironwood and Rehberg Ranch. This is also a public hearing, and staff recommends approval.
Questions for Andy? Councilmember Rowan?
Andy, in those 2 cases where the HOAs have asked for an increase, do they send us a resolution, or how do we know? What's that communication look like?
Well, they
Gavin can come
communicate with
answer.
the Parks Department, and beyond that, I'll let Gavin
Okay.
further that answer.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, and Council. To your question, yeah, with the Ironwood, this has been multiple emails and conversations that have gone back almost 2 years until we finally got a design, some more granular information of what is it that they want.
Okay.
And so that has allowed that. The other with the Rehberg, that too was a much larger conversation through email. About a year in the making.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions? I don't see any. Okay, we'll open up for a public hearing on item number 7, the proposed park maintenance district assessments. Is there any public comment? This is a public hearing. Please come to the podium. Just ask you tell us your name and keep your comments to 3 minutes. Is there any public comment on item number 7 before we close the public hearing? No one's coming forward, so we will close the public hearing on item number 7. Look to council. Council, how do you want to proceed? Councilmember Boyette?
Thank you, Mayor. Having conducted a public hearing, considered written and spoken public testimony, I move to approve a resolution setting the annual park maintenance district's PMD's assessments for fiscal year 2026 as recommended by staff.
Very good. Second, Councilor Rogers. Discussion. Either like to speak to your motion? No. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll proceed to a vote. The motion is for approval. I'm sorry, did somebody say something? No. Motion is for approval of item number 7, consistent with the staff recommendation. If in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
If opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Denise, would you please read item number 8?
Public hearing, a resolution approving and adopting FY 2025 budget amendments. Staff recommends approval.
Back to Andy.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm getting this up on the screen. Okay. I have before you the FY25 budget amendments. I was before you in June for what I thought were the final ones, but as we closed out the fiscal year, we identified 2 additional budget amendments for fiscal year 25. There is sufficient cash in each fund to cover these expenses, and I did bring this to the Budget and Finance Committee last week, where they were recommended for approval. The first, well, both budget amendments, I'm just going to go here. There we go. The first one is in our Central Services Fund. This covers all the print operations across the city, where this year, if you recall, we moved from a decentralized printing function to a centralized printing function, and had, I'd say, a little higher startup costs than what we had anticipated we'd experience by the end of the year. That's what that budget amendment is for. And then finally, the increase to the property and liability insurance. These are for our deductibles on damages. At times, they are reimbursed if we're found to be due reimbursement. But at this point, but an additional budget amendment of $15,682 is necessary. This will make sure that our actual expenditures are not in excess of those that were budgeted for fiscal year 25. This is also a public hearing, and staff recommends approval.
Questions for Andy? Are there any questions for Andy? I don't see any, Andy, so thank you very much. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to be heard on item number 8, the proposed budget amendments for fiscal year 25, which was the last fiscal year? Any public comment on item number 8? Please come forward if there is. No one is coming forward, so we'll close the public hearing on item number 8. Council, Councilmember Kennedy?
Having conducted a public hearing, considered written and spoken testimony, I move to approve of the resolution approving and adopting resolution for fiscal year 25 budget amendments as recommended by staff.
Very good. Second from Councilmember Kulik. Is there any discussion? Any discussion before we proceed to a vote? Seeing none, the motion is for approval of item 8. If in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. If opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Concludes item number 8. Denise, would you read item number 9?
Public hearing and resolution approving and adopting FY 2026 final budget. Staff recommends approval.
Andy.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council.
Long time no see.
Yeah,
Andy.
yeah. It's good to be back.
Yeah.
I have before you the FY26 budget adoption. This also went to the Budget and Finance Committee last week and was recommended for approval. What you have before you in your resolution, and I'll just explain it to you because I don't have a slide that shows it, but you had the preliminary budget that was presented to you for consideration in June. You guys made amendments and adopted that and established the, maybe for lack of a better term, adopted preliminary budget. That's the starting point. What's before you tonight? I have before you 4 recommended amendments to that budget for this evening that would be hopefully approved. And that would establish the budget for FY26. I would hesitate to say it is the final budget because I would imagine you'll see budget amendments for FY26 throughout the year. But I think this is our first time doing a two-step budget adoption, and I thought was a good opportunity to bring amendments to that as well at this point in time. So I'm going to go through the amendments that are before you. The first two are to the tax increment districts, one for the South Tax Increment District and one to North 27th or Downtown Tax Increment District. These are both projects that were approved in the past, did not get started, and we failed to include them in the budget this year. So we're asking that they be reestablished. These are projects that have been included in those cash flow sheets you've seen. We've anticipated they would get spent. They didn't get completed or in some cases started in fiscal year 25, but they are underway and would like to have those funds to see the project through. The next two items are related to each other. So if you recall, when we acquired and built out this building, we entered into some short-term financing to do that. And the intention was that we would sell the old City Hall, Park One Retail, and a few other things, including tax credits, and use those funds as they came in to pay down debt on this building. When you had the FY26 budget before you, we had not closed on Park One Retail nor Old City Hall. We expected they were coming, but did not include the accelerated debt payment as part of the budget. We have since closed on those and are asking for the budget authority to pay down the debt to the tune of, it'll probably be between 2.5 and 2.9 million. So that's what that City Hall financing budget authority is for, to allow me to do that. The parking transfer is really just an accounting budget amendment, but when we sold Park One Retail, that was a parking asset. The funds go there. We need to transfer it out of that and into City Hall financing fund so we can make that payment. So those two are related. I don't have any other amendments to the FY26 budget at this time, and would turn it over to you, Mayor. A reminder, it's still a public hearing and staff recommends approval.
Thank you very much, Andy. Questions now for Andy. Are there any questions for Andy? Councilmember Gillick?
Going back to slide number 4 there, we just making sure I understand and the public understands. Those first two items, we've already levied for the money back in fiscal year 2025. They're sitting in an account somewhere, and by passing this amendment, it provides authority to spend money that's already been levied. Is that correct?
Correct. The cash for actually all of those is currently in the City of Billings bank accounts. And with respect to the first two projects, those were approved by prior councils, probably the majority of you. In the case of the Sky Point rehab, that's the unspent portion that they're intending to use for lighting and electrical upgrades. The sale's already done. It's been painted. So that's why the majority of that's been spent. And then at Optimist Park lighting project, that I believe is underway at this point, but was not rebudgeted.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Any other questions for Andy? Okay, thank you, Andy. We'll open up for our public hearing then. This is a public hearing on the final city budget, item number 9. If you'd like to be heard, just please come forward. Just ask that you tell us your name and keep your comments to 3 minutes. Mr. Nelson.
Kevin Nelson, 4235 Bruce Avenue. Hopefully within this budget, there's proper room for some, what I think we need is some more traffic enforcement. Mr. Kennedy, with this earlier one about the police officer gets totaled out. About a year and 3 months ago, my wife, she got her car totaled out, side impact, probably ran a red light, but he said, she said, this is according to the cops. We're busy. We have other wrecks to get to. We got to go. Oh, all right. couple of weeks ago, woman, mother, raising 4 kids, again, totaled out, high speed, side impact, totals out the car. One of the kids is injured. The driver and the passenger, they take off running, don't know if they were ever caught. The passenger in the back of the pickup, he's unable to go. He goes to the hospital also. Well, you may not agree with the approach, but as you well know, if you pay attention to the news, President Trump has been bragging about how Washington, D.C. hasn't had a homicide since he put federal enforcement in there to up the enforcement. And the homicide, they haven't had any homicides. Well, what would happen if we had additional enforcement of our traffic right here? Who in this city would not have to suffer through the collision that may not occur just because there's enforcement? What if we had additional cops on the street absolutely enforcing these traffic laws? How many people would not have to suffer through that? You really don't know. But the evidence is clear with additional enforcement. Some of these traffic accidents are just not going to happen because a lot of these people are going to be arrested long before they ever create the accident themselves. I don't know how your budget is setting, but I would hope that this council would take seriously that the traffic in this town needs to be addressed and necessary funding needs to be put in place so this could be addressed. Maybe for transparency, maybe do we need budget authority maybe we need someone just to simply put down how many traffic stops are done every month and get a report to the people to say, hey, are we actually even enforcing these traffic laws? I mean, some people don't think we are because just to the fact that it's just going rampant that there is no enforcement. We don't even know. But hopefully you'll take this seriously, put some additional funding in the budget if necessary, and get some transparency about the number of traffic stops that are actually happening so that people know what's going on. Thanks.
Thank you. Further comment on item number 9, the proposed final budget. Is there any other public comment on item number 9? This is a public hearing. Feel free to come forward. No one is, so we will close the public hearing on item number 9. Back to council. Councilmember Boyette.
Thank you, Mayor. Having conducted a public hearing, considered written and spoken public testimony, I move to approve a resolution approving and adopting the resolution for the FY 2026 final budget as recommended by staff.
Very good. Second by Councilmember Gulick. Would either of you like to speak to your motion? Councilmember Boyette?
I know it was a long, drawn-out process to buy this building as well as to sell the other building, and we finally did it. I didn't think that day would ever come, but we're here. We have a wonderful building, and I think Andy told me today with less than $3 million left after all of these millions of dollars, I think we're in good place.
Very good. Thank you. And thanks to all the staff who worked on that. I always like to remember that most of that money came from COVID dollars, and that meant that we had 577 people in this county or whatever the number was who died, sadly, but I'm not sure where those dollars would have come from if it hadn't been for the COVID pandemic and those federal dollars. Any other comment now on the proposed motion for approval of the final budget? Any other discussion before we proceed to a vote? Okay, seeing none, if in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye?
Aye.
If opposed, nay?
Nay.
Voting in opposition, Councilmember Tidswell, and
No,
I apologize.
Yeah.
Who voted nay? Councilmember Rupsis, I apologize. Okay, and Councilmember Neese, and just those two, correct? Okay, yeah. So all of the council members voting in favor. Motion passes 7 in favor, 2 opposed. That concludes item number 9, brings us to our final item for this evening, item number 10. Denise, would you read item number 10?
Okay, Mayor, this is a 3-part. It's resolutions creating advisory committees for urban renewal areas. Staff will recommend approval. And the first one is to be considered is the East Billings Urban Renewal District, eBird. And then the next one will be South Billings Boulevard Urban Renewal District, S-Bird, and then Downtown Urban Renewal District. And each of those will require a separate motion and vote.
Very good, thank you. And as Denise said, we'll have a joint presentation, and then at some point we'll need to have separate votes on each resolution. Turn it over to our city attorney, Gina.
Thank you, Mayor. I really don't have a presentation. This is a pretty straightforward issue. There are 3 resolutions for your consideration to create the Urban Renewal District advisory committees for the 3 urban renewal districts that the city of Billings has. And those were presented in your packet. However, last week, Mayor Cole reviewed and suggested a couple of edits that were appropriate and accepted by at least 2 of the 3 districts. We didn't hear back from Sabura, but I pulled up a clean version of one of those resolutions. This one is which one is this? This is the eBird. And so generally the edits that are now being recommended are to Section 2 and to Section 3. And in Section 2, you will see subsection D has 6 at-large members. That section consolidated the 3. There were a section D, E, and F, I believe, and there were 2, 2, and 2 members, and it was a little confusing. Just so you know, the process based on council's direction at the work session when we discussed this, it was council basically instructed staff to move forward, keeping the districts and the process as close to the same as possible. And so staff essentially just spoke with the districts, got what their recommendations were, what they wanted to see as far as representation on the advisory committees, and that's what was placed in here. Mayor Cole made some better edits to consolidate those to make a little bit more sense so that there was consistency between the 3 districts. That's what you see in all 3 resolutions. Excuse me. And I've just pulled one of them. One of the resolutions up, the 3 are essentially the same, consolidating those at-large memberships so that there's some consistency. And that's what you see in Section 2. And Section 3 is essentially the same thing here under A, B, C, and D, that D consolidates those representatives and sets the terms for those members. There is also an edit up in this initial paragraph in Section 2, just a little bit better language clarifying. So what was initially in here was city code language that talks about the initial terms, which isn't the best language, and Mayor Cole came up with a little bit better language that clarifies the initial terms when they expire, that the new term starting on the calendar year is for the whole 4 years. That is essentially the edits, I believe. The rest of the edits were just cleanup to make it consistent with the changes to the districts, the district representatives. I think, let me check to make sure. Yes, that's correct. So that's just the quick and dirty explanation. If there's any questions, happy to answer those. And I can pull up the other resolutions as well if that's helpful. They're essentially the same edits in all, with just slight variations based on the representations that the 3 districts have.
Okay, questions for Gina? And I'll just point out we also have representatives from the 3 existing TIF advisory boards. Katie Schreiner, Heather Doty, and Dick Zier are with us as well, and we'll give them an opportunity to chime in here. But were there any questions for Gina specifically? Councilmember Neese?
Thank you, Mayor. Gina, these resolutions, these TIF districts, they're the city TIF districts, correct?
That's correct. The city advisory committees?
Yeah, the advisory.
That's correct. They will now be city committees, yes.
Okay. And so the city has the ability to set the rules and who the members are. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so that's kind of what we're doing here with these resolutions, the different, all right. Of course, subject to whatever the state says.
Yes, that's correct. In the bill, the legislature did require representation from city, county, and school district.
Okay. And just clear, I think I CC'd you on some emails that I was talking about, and I'll bring this amendment up as we get into it, but I just want to let the council know a little bit more about it. I think the intent when the legislator made some of these, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but from what I heard, they wanted to have more representation outside the district for city, county, and school districts in there. And so they've had added these positions to be within the district, the body of decision-making of how to spend the taxpayer money. So I'm going to make an amendment later on as we get into this about how the representatives appointed in, I think should be A, C, D. If it's for Suburra, these are the city, county, and school district appointees should not be able to own interest or personal or business interest in the district. What this does would be to make sure that we're getting community members outside the district to help get input into the district. And I think that would give a better rounding of that. So I just asking you, Gina, do you see a problem with having something like that where we add a rule within the appointees, at least for the cities, but more importantly, since we created these, can we put requirements on how the county or the school districts can appoint their members? Can we have a rule like that?
Councilmember Neese, first I want to say I did see your emails and I apologize for not addressing that when I was standing up there at the podium. I did not include that particular edit just because I wanted to make sure that I understood exactly, and it seemed like it's something that might warrant some council discussion. So first of all, I just wanted to say that I apologize for not addressing that. And yes, I think that council can place some requirements on these on qualifications for the members. I think if the one problem I see with placing certain kinds of restrictions on those particular the representation from a city, county, and school district is that those three entities would be the one making a recommendation. And if a particular restriction is placed, for example, I think you indicated in the most recent email that those representatives cannot own personal or business property in the district. I would just be worried that if the school district, for example, or the county or whoever wanted a particular representative and they did own property in the district, that would be problematic because they're the one who is making they're making the nomination, and it seems to me they're entitled to have the representative that they want. But that's really not clear in the bill. So I think that that's something that council can discuss. And I don't think there's any prohibition to do what you want. It just may simply be, it could potentially be problematic.
Okay, yeah, no, I understand. It could limit the pool of who may want to they appoint. I think by doing something like this, you're going to eliminate the conflict of interest between someone living in the district voting for their own sidewalks and stuff like that versus representing the school interests that they're on. So, but anyway, I'll speak to that further. But it's just as long as that you don't think there's a problem with that. So,
I don't.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, further questions for Gina, and I will ask the representatives from the TIF districts to come forward in just a minute and chime in with anything they want to add here. I don't see any other thing else, so existing TIF representatives don't feel any obligation, but Katie, Heather, Dick, any of you want to comment? We'd like to know what you think of the current version, including my amendments.
I'm Dick Zier. I'm the consultant at the South Billings Urban Renewal Association. I live at 3039 Golden Acres Drive. Well, Mayor and Council, my board is in favor of what you did, the amendments you made to the Mayor Cole. So we're good behind it.
Great, thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Katie Schreiner with Downtown Billings. I think that the main comment that I would have for Council is that we really elected to propose representation that is largely the same as it has been for the last 30 years. The Downtown Billings Partnership was created in 1995. Our bylaws were pretty prescriptive from the very beginning, really making sure we had accurate representation from the city, county, and school district were specifically called out. In addition, we also added in Big Sky Economic Development. The one change that we've made this go around is that we have added the Native American Development Corporation as a prescriptive representative seat on our board, really with that input to the larger economic development for our community, including downtown. Really felt that that was important, but largely what we've proposed for the makeup of our board is very closely aligned with what was created in our bylaws in 1995. So sort of along that lines of what's working will continue to work for us. So, and I also appreciate Mayor Cole's revisions to this. It does make it much clearer and consistent across all three districts. So thank you.
Very good, thank you. Heather.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Our board is completely happy with all the revisions that have been made, and they're very excited to get 3 new members who are not, to Mr. Neese's point, representatives who own property in the district to have a little bit of that outside perspective. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Okay, this is it is not a public hearing. I'm so used to saying that. So we don't have to have a public hearing on this item. We will have to have separate votes. Council, are there further questions, discussion, or is there a motion? Just to remind you, if there is a motion, let's proceed in order. First Bird, second Sabura, and then the downtown district. So Councilmember Gila, Councilmember Neese.
Let's get an underlying motion at least. So it's I move to approve resolution creating an advisory committee for the East Billings Urban Renewal District.
And Councilmember Gila, can I just ask you to specify the nature of the resolution, because exactly which resolution we're approving, since were proposed amendments distributed by email after the one that came out in the packet a week ago, namely the ones that I distributed.
Right, okay. So I move to approve a resolution creating an advisory committee for the East Billings Urban Renewal District with amendments proposed by, that includes amendments proposed by Mayor Cole and as recommended by staff.
Okay, and those were the ones that were presented in Gina's presentation to you here a minute ago.
Second.
Councilmember Neese, you had the second?
Second.
Okay. Okay, either of you like to speak to your motion?
No, thanks. No, I read through your amendments. I thought they were fine and made some clarity on that. So I appreciate you taking time and looking at that. I would like to make an amendment though.
Okay, Councilmember Neese.
Thank you, and I'm sorry I don't have the resolution up here in front of me, but under section 2 in the advisory committee, after the A, B, C, D, E would, and this was maybe not A, B, C, D, E, I'm looking at the downtown, but where they mentioned the different representatives being elected, that we insert the language, the representative appointed in
A and C cannot own personal or business property in the district. If there's a second, I'll speak to it.
And just to repeat your proposed amendment, it would add additional language in subsection 2 saying that the representatives mentioned in A through C, namely the city, county, and school district, may not own property in the district. Did I state it correctly?
Yes, that is correct. And then when we get to support, it'll be A through D.
Okay, is there a second to the proposed amendment? Second by Councilmember Owen. Okay, if you'd like to address your motion.
Yeah, I spoke a little bit towards that. I was asking Gina the questions, but I think the whole idea is to ensure that we eliminate any kind of conflict of interest between those appointed and those living in the district. The point of having a city representative, school district, and county representative is give an outside look as far as how that tax money is to be spent within the district. When you look at the whole entity, the tax dollars that would have gone into the school district versus the TIF district or the city or the county. And so I think by ensuring members that are outside of that interest, it brings that outside perspective. It brings more support for the TIF districts because you've got people outside of the district supporting the district and their developments. And it also brings new perspective in. And then again, it eliminates any kind of conflict of interest that people may point to if that individual is not even in the district and representing that. So I would ask you that you would support this simple amendment.
Very good. Councilmember Owen, did you want to speak to a second? No. Further discussion on the proposed amendment. Councilmember Gillick?
I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea. I'm a little concerned that, now these are, since they're city boards, or the city has a responsibility for filling these positions. We have some challenges filling already. I just wonder if there's somebody who doesn't have any particular interest, I guess, in a district, are we going to be able to find people to fill that? I'm not sure about that. And it seems to me that the city council is the function, because everything that does come before the city, from the TIF districts, the urban rural districts, does come before council, and council can provide the interests for those who aren't living in the district. So I'd throw that out there for discussion.
Yeah, I agree. Finding board members for a lot of different boards are difficult. I think, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine the TIF district boards, and they can speak to whether or not they have trouble finding board members or not. But I would hope that this would just give a broader spectrum of people to be able to serve on the boards. It actually opened up, because right now board members, I think, have to live within the district. And so this is going to open it up to the entire city or county to allow more people to be involved in it. So I think you have a broader pool to pull from for these positions.
Very good. Further discussion. Councilmember Boyette?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think this is a good idea. I mean, I'm looking at D, E, and F. Those are property owners. So A, B, and C, I think each board should be able to go out and find a couple of people. I would hope they could. I think this is a good idea. I mean, why not have people who aren't property owners making the decision? Good idea. I'll support it.
Very good. Further discussion? Okay, I understand. I'm going to vote against it. I understand the point of it, and it's not a big deal, frankly, to me, if this passes. I just, since the statutes, and I don't have the statute in front of me, but I assume the statute basically said the county gets to pick their people and the school district gets to pick their people. And if we can make this kind of limitation, why can't we just say they also have to live in the city, or they also have to have financial interest, or whatever? We're imposing our will on the potential desires of the school district and the county. So I'm not inclined for that reason. So any further discussion, Councilor or Gina?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to, this is a little out of order, I guess, but when I was giving my presentation, I did not mention Nice's, Councilmember Nice's potential amendment. I don't think any of the 3 districts were aware of that till now. They all came up and had a chance to tell council their positions. I don't know if you think that would be appropriate to inquire of them if they have any issues, or if that would be problematic in any way, if any of the 3 have.
The
May
representatives
not
from
be
the
an
district.
issue at all.
Yeah,
but-
no, I think that's perfectly legitimate. I assume nobody has
I don't have an objection to that. I did mention it before they gave their testimony, and I think the E-Board did speak towards it in favor of it. So, yeah, if the others want to mention one way or the other, that's fine. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this specifically. While I generally don't have any opposition to this idea, I would reiterate that it is often a challenge to, I guess, make that request to these entities to appoint their representatives. We don't generally have an issue filling board positions on this board by our at-large membership. Where we do have challenges is to seek representation from the very prescriptive entities. Specifically, when you look at having a representative from city, county, school district, I would be concerned that they would find it harder to find a willing and able participant should this role be more prescriptive specifically for those 3. I do very sincerely respect I think the intention behind this. To receive input from your community is very important. But I would also reiterate that we have very strong conflict of interest policies in place from our board as a requirement. We have seen this in action in several of our points of action on this board. Should a representative of an entity have a conflict of interest because of personal or professional property that they might own, they do recuse themselves, and that's definitely noted in our meeting minutes and has happened several times. So while I don't generally have an issue behind the intent of this, I would be very concerned about ensuring that the entities that do need to appoint a representative would have an easy time to do that. So just out of, I guess, respect for that, to keep that in mind, that is sometimes hard to get a willing and able participant sometimes. So thank you.
Very good, Dick.
I'm Dick Zier again. I guess my concern would be with the state making that law, are we going to open up a can of worms and do something that they wouldn't like, and then we have a real problem?
Very good. Wyeth.
Mayor and Council, if I might just briefly, just to get a little more context on this. So when I did go and speak to School District 2 about this process, I spoke to them about the expansion of the South Billings District and that this was coming forward. My impression, I guess, from them is they're looking at bringing forward someone professional out of their staff, an administrator, maybe a board member, trustee. So I guess I just want to point that out. I don't know where all those people live or what I think they're thinking more of like the importance of the person and how they're going to represent the district more than anything else. So just wanted to share that. They're not thinking about, just kind of random people. I think they're looking pretty specifically. So thanks.
Okay, Council, you've got a motion, proposed amendment on the table. Any further discussion on the proposed amendment before we proceed to vote? Councilmember Rowan?
Mayor, I think I just want to stick up a little bit for the notion here that independent directors are a good idea. Having a little bit of balance makes a lot of sense. And I think it's important to remember the underlying impetus of this legislation was to reflect whether it's real or perceived, but there's a frustration among other taxing entities that cities come in and establish TIFs and they feel like they don't have a voice. So I would be stunned, frankly, if either the county or the school district had a problem finding someone to fill these positions because they are acutely interested in how tax dollars are divvied up. I don't anticipate there will be vacancies here because I think the belief is that counties and school districts are frustrated with TIF districts. So I think this amendment makes a lot of sense. we're talking about each entity finding 3 people. I think they'll be more than able to do that and ensure that those are truly independent directors. So I think this amendment is a good idea and I will support it.
Very good. Further discussion on the proposed amendment before we proceed to a vote. Okay, the proposed amendment then is to add language that would require that the representatives, and at this point, we're only talking about the eBird proposed resolution, but of course, it may have implications for others, that those city, county, and school district representatives cannot own property in the district. So if in favor of the proposed motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Just to clarify, those council members Boyette, Neese, Owen. Okay, and if opposed, please say nay. Voting in opposition, council members Tidswell, Kennedy, Rogers, Gulick, Cole, and Ripsis. So that motion fails 3-6. Brings us back then to the underlying motion. Further discussion now on the underlying motion. Is there any further discussion on the underlying motion relating to the eBird district? Okay, we'll proceed to a vote. So that brings us to the original proposal. Councilmember Gulick's motion, I believe. If in favor of the original motion, please say aye.
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 If opposed, say nay. That motion passes unanimously, 9-0. Second item up would be the South Billings Boulevard. Councilmember Kennedy.
Mayor, I would move that we create the advisory committee for the South Billings Boulevard Urban Renewal District as proposed and with the amendments that you have put forward attached.
Very good. Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Gulick. Either of you like to speak to your motion?
No.
And no. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay. If we're ready to proceed to vote, no other discussion. So the motion is for approval of item 10B with the proposed changes that were circulated and discussed. If in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. If opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. The third item up then is item 10C, the Downtown Urban Renewal District proposed resolution. Is there a motion relating to that one? Councilmember Gulick.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I move to approve a resolution creating an advisory committee for the Downtown Urban Renewal District as recommended by staff and with amendments provided by Mayor Cole.
Very good. Second by Councilmember Rogers. Either of you like to speak to your motion? No? Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. We'll proceed to a vote. If in favor of the motion for approval, item 10C as stated, please say aye. Aye. If opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. That concludes our regular agenda, and item 10 brings us to public comment on things that were not on our agenda tonight. Is there any comment on items not on our agenda tonight? Just ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes and tell us your name if you would. No one is coming forward. Any public comment on non-agenda items? No one is coming forward, so we'll close the public comment period. Last item on our agenda then are council initiatives. Councilmember Kennedy.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. I sent everyone out a council initiative proposal, and this is the short name for the initiative is Department Heads of the City of Billings Residency in the City. It's just asking that all department heads would live in the city, and the reasoning for that is department heads propose rate increases and fee increases. Cities across the country also have this requirement, and as a city resident, they have a voice in their own neighborhood. It's just a matter of fairness that if you're making proposals to tax people, you should be part of that tax base. I received your comments, Gina, today. And as you have stated in the charter, it states that the city administrator has the opportunity to hire and all of that. As we move this initiative forward, I would just ask that we make a positive proposal that people that are hired as department heads do live in the city. Now, if the city administrator does not decide to follow that, that's according to the charter, they have that prerogative. But that would be the desire of the council to put something forward so that initiative would be out there and people know that, that's what the desire of the council. All I'm asking tonight is to move this forward to a work session that we can have an overall discussion on it.
Very good, thank you. Thank you for giving us the heads up. Is this the time when you're going to make that motion? Because you haven't made the motion per se, right? Or are you making the motion?
Do I make a motion to move it to a study?
Yeah.
Well, Mayor, I think it needs to be presented on the agenda for public comment to know that it's on the initiative form. So it needs to be presented prior to the agenda being created, so that way we came here, the public would see there was going to be an agenda on here regarding that.
And that's the point you were going to make, I assume, Councilmember Ripsis. So this constitutes just notice, and then we would put it on a future amendment or a future agenda so the community has notice.
Yes, please.
Okay, well, thank you for your heads up. Councilmember Ripsis, you have anything else, or that was your point that you wanted to make?
Well, if we're ready to move on, then I would introduce my initiative.
Oh, okay, you would give us, okay, all right. I think we are ready to move on, so Councilmember.
Very good. Council, you all received in your email notice of my initiative that I'll ask to be put on a future agenda. 2 weeks from now, I'm actually going to be out of town, so it'll probably be 4 weeks from now that we'll put on the agenda. But specifically dealing with Mr. Nelson's and many other complaints that we've received from around the community dealing with aggressive driving and excessive vehicular noise. And so the end result of the agenda or the initiative will really to just be dedicate some time to work session to really kind of dig into what are our policy options, what legislative changes can we make, what environmental design changes can we try, and what can we use from a technology perspective to help deal with this issue in our community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else in the way of heads up, sir? Okay, Councilmember Boyette.
This may not be the time, but as it came to mind that Councilmember Shariki some years ago, I think he may have made a motion that once we built this building that we were going to put a plaque up on the wall somewhere signifying where the money came from, and it was for the sake of the people under COVID who passed away. Whether we forgot about it or in the future, I didn't want to forget that now.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and haven't forgot about it, but nor have we driven it forward. So Councilmember Tricky, myself, I think Councilmember Joy.
Yakowicz, I thought he was really pushing it too.
Yeah. We met a few times. We talked about something much more substantial, but ran into problems. Where would that go? Who would pay for it? Lots of issues. And I think the consensus was something relatively modest, but we need something. And if anybody would like to have an informal drafting committee, I'd like to be on that, but I'd welcome any input because I think we do just need to come up with some
Maybe we should send that to the art committee.
And a location.
Maybe send that to the art committee to do a little research.
Yeah. Any objection to that? We give them a little assignment. Although they don't exist yet. They will. So it's just a little bit of a question of timing. So, or or the operations committee. It's a kind of an internal thing, so that's probably a good place for it too. But if you have input or comment or location, and I know staff has been kind of looking around, so they may have some thoughts as well. So, okay, thank you for calling that to our attention. Okay, I am going to adjourn us if there's nothing else, Council. Okay, thank you, everyone. We're adjourned.